DIYers, DIYers, we are wired, we are ready. DIYers, DIYers, we are. Let's not do that. Shout out to the Echo one time. And shout out to Stolen Drums, the soundtrack of so many of these conversations and these interviews. First and foremost, DIYers, I want to say thank you for joining me here today for a long overdue conversation with somebody that I have the utmost respect for. Someone that I kept in a lot of good touch with during this last, I don't even know if you want to call it a battle anymore if you ask me, but this ordeal that happened, this big news that happened within hip hop. We had a lot of conversations, but ladies and gentlemen, I am joined here by the legendary, the one, Justin Hunte, aka the Company Man. Oh man, it is an absolute honor, sir. How you doing today? Okay, I don't know if that audio's acting up again on your side, but let me turn this music off as we get into this. Yeah, no, Zoom has been trying to hate on us this whole time. And my apologies for those of you that were here yesterday expecting to have this conversation. That wasn't what is supposed to happen. You know, sometimes you get to planning and sometimes, you know, it just is what it is. That's a very interesting shirt that you have on today, by the way, Justin. I just wanted to go ahead and point that out.
It is. The Man Live Special. Man Live Special. Kendrick making Drake drop and give him 50.
No, we're not with the 616. Oh, the OVOers are not going to be happy about this conversation today. I'll tell you what.
Not at all. I like your shirt as well. You got the brushstroke version.
It's laundry day. That's all it was. Don't mind the picture in the back. They can't even see it. But man. So first and foremost, shout out to NanLib, nanlib.com if you want to get more information on that. Look, they already asking. QET said, hey, where can I find that shirt at? Nanlib.com is where you go ahead and find that information. Shout out to the homegirl. She's been killing it and always making her imprint from a creative standpoint on moments in hip hop that cannot be denied. But man, you know, look, I want to make sure that people get an introduction. I want to get into all of these different stories, the state of where hip hop is going, a lot of things we discussed kind of offline. But for those who don't know the legend that is, I'm going to keep saying the legendary journalist, the award-winning Justin Hunte, could you kind of give them, from your own words, who you are and what it is that you do?
Word up, man. I appreciate you being here on your platform, man. You've been killing it with the commentary, the insight, and the information. That's the kind of stuff that I'm into too, man. I talk about life through the lens of hip hop. I've been writing about rap music for, wow. About to be 20 years, probably 15 years professionally. My name is Justin Hunte. I go by The Company Man, got a YouTube channel called The Company Man. I have worked in investment banking. I was editor-in-chief of Hip Hop DX. Was with Empire, big part of starting their country division, signed an artist named Willie Jones. I wrote for television, a show called Court Cam, work in the tech space, shout out to Music 360, and with Barry Hankerson and Breaker. If you're an influencer, if you're an artist trying to get into the influencer space, Breaker is the marketplace for you. It's the best place. It's the most innovative new product in music that I've seen, so I'm always happy to work with them as well. And before all that, man, I'm just a student of life and a torchbearer for hip hop. You know what I mean? It's the music of our generation. It's the culture that surrounds us, and you know, I always treat it with the most deference and respect.
Man, and you've done such an amazing job. I guess a better question to lead off with would have been, what haven't you done? Because I had no idea of about 80% of those things, and I feel like I've known you for a long time. I first got introduced to Justin through my guy Salas, who was managing me at the time as an artist, and I mean, he was the introduction that I had to first off Hip Hop DX. That's when I met you there. And one thing I can tell you about when I was doing those runs at the time, doing different media spots, you know, when folks don't know who you are, they tend to start asking the same questions. Who's your inspiration? Who's your top five? What's this and that? What I always, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I've always appreciated about you was that, you know, you can tell that you're a true journalist, a true student of this, because the questions you asked were very much like, well, I don't know a whole lot about you, but I'm going to get to know you through the questions that I ask. And it's just a level of care and comfort that I feel like me and my peers, as we've talked about you, behind closed doors, like, when you go on to Justin, that you're going to get something that you're going to want to show off and brag later on, no matter what period and place you were in your career. So I salute you, and I'm grateful for you in general for that, man.
I appreciate you, brother. That's the ultimate compliment, man.
So it's been amazing, too, to see you here in this YouTube space because, it's a lot of folks. It's funny how many times people have come to me and they're like, man, you got to check out Company Man. He's the guy. I'm like, is that right? I should go check him out, huh? I'm like, really? Really? Is that right? You said the company? Is it with an E or a Y? No. But people keep doing that because, there's a lot of conversations that you have that, to me, speak to a higher level of intelligence and IQ when it comes to rap. It seems like there's so many media, not to rag on anybody, but it seems like there's so many media outlets that appeal to very low frequency conversations. And that's one thing that I go to your content and I feel like I left with something as opposed to I've given away my time to something that hasn't recharged me back. So could you kind of speak to, I guess, what is, the fuel for that and why do you have such a unique way of going about sharing your thoughts about this culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately there are certain things that bind everyone.
Right.
And there are things in every culture and every generation that regardless if you like those things or if you hate those things, they bring us all together, right? In our generation, it's hip hop. If you hate hip hop, West Philadelphia, born and raised. You know exactly what happened, right? Video games is another thing, right? If you hate video games, you know all about Mario.
Facts.
It's just inevitable. You know what I mean? There's certain things like that. And because hip hop, in my opinion, is such a unifying force, and it has been a unifying force in my life, I like to add that element to my commentary. So I like to take people on a journey that's reminiscent of the editorials that I used to read growing up that inspired me, the Scoop Jacksons, the Torreys, even Bill Simmons on the sports side, and I feel like and try to point out those connective tissues that connect to whatever's happening right now. The last video I did was talking about Drake's verse on You My Everything, for example. And there's a lot of conversation back and forth about that. I like the fact that he's leaning into it because it reminded me of when Eazy-E was at Ballistics and they dropped No Vaseline. I think that of connecting points together in a conversation is, the type of editorials or commentary that I appreciate the most. And so I try to bring that to the conversation with my art.
I'll tell you, for an artist that has transitioned into and not a full transition in that I'm not still creating music and creating art, but as an artist that is getting into the media space, you for me were an example of, if I said, man, if I did media, it would be so much like Justin, in that it comes from a point of view that's like, it's adult points of views, but it's not detached adult point of views. It's not so much of like, you guys need to pick your pants up and this is the problem with hip hop. I never wanted to be that. So when I see you exist in this space, especially YouTube, I just have to say how thankful I am, because I'm like, man, there's sometimes I share things and there's people who forget that I'm a rapper because some of my viewpoints are not always the most friendly and overlooking of character. And I think they're used to that, especially, I guess a lot of that stuff is adjusting as you see the Joe Buttons kind of figure out their platform year after year. And, Cam and May seem to not necessarily be publicly correct all the time. So you see that changing, but I do look to you as someone that when I watch your content, I'm like, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew it don't make me any less hip hop. I know I'm not aging myself out. And I think nothing showed me that more than when we started to first get the rumblings of this Drake versus Kendrick back and forth. And then I see my phone ring. I think we had like a brief conversation on Twitter. I saw my phone ring, and I think we might have talked for a few hours after, of course, like we kept somewhat in touch. But when I saw those conversations, I said, oh man, I don't know who had a bigger battle ahead of them. I don't know if it was Drake or if it was me and you, because some of the conversation, some of the conversations that I've seen you kind of going through, and I'm like, man, I need a catchy hashtag like it's all happening so that I can stump back on these people. But with that said, man, give me some zoomed out points of view, because obviously you have content that's circulating around it. We were talking like literally play by play as these things were happening. What sort of a zoomed out point of view that you feel like you have now with more clarity after it seems like the dust is somewhat settling, even though it feels like there's new stuff coming out every day?
I mean, I did not know we were going on a murder mystery. You know what I mean? I didn't know this was going to look like, a Shakespearean, tragedy.
Yeah.
It's like the thing I think about most when I think about this battle is all the macro stuff that's gone down. To me, this is the best battle of all time, right? And I know people have their opinions on, well, the bars weren't as, dangerous as they used to be, or it sounds like angry people writing poems together, or you're a bad person is like a punchline now. This is so watered down. To me, it's like, well, look at all the things that are at play from a macro conversations that are also happening in other aspects of life and culture, and in the political sphere, or even just from a family conversation, right? You've got AI. It was an AI advertorial.
Which we're on opposing sides of the utilization of that within this battle, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
But Drake made basically a commercial for AI with Tailor-Made Freestyle. Even a year after, he was very upset when that AI Weekend AI Drake album came out. He leaned into it this year because Universal was heavily invested into it.
Right.
And also BBL Drizzy is an AI song, right?
Yep.
It's which everyone loves. No one's upset about that one.
Everyone's a bit of a stretch, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and get that one off, though, Justin.
Well, people are getting married too.
I did see that. What is going on in the world? Why are we getting married to BBL Drizzy?
It's fantastic.
And how does Rick Ross not get a little bit of money for this?
Right. So, but the Rick Ross part is something that's very interesting too, right?
Right.
So Rick Ross, obviously, this is culture, pulling Drake's culture card, and I've said that from Jump Street, and it's definitely played out that way. But away from Drake telling the world that he told his mom that Rick Ross is racist, which is crazy.
That was a wild moment.
Yo, that's when I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is everything they say about me is true. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. That's when that Euphoria joint made so much sense. But also on the flip side, Kendrick is such a non-online person. He is not someone who's going to meme you to death as part of his rap battle. And in that sense, Rick Ross was kind of like the street team, because he was on every day, whatever Kendrick wasn't saying on the internet.
Right.
Ross was saying on the internet every day. You know what I mean? So you saw like a new side of the street team show up for someone who was very much offline. Someone who's talked about not even having a phone for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Or even releasing not the smartphone. I guess you call the dumb phone, the dumbed down phone as something he's selling, because it's so much a part. It's so a part of his brand that of course you'd release this very simplified approach to a phone. I forget what the name of it was, but yeah, that's how much it's known about.
Right, exactly. That's all these things are in the background. Like you get to the aspect of, certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Well, that is a broader conversation that's just happening in media, Epstein Island, legislation they're passing in southern states where they're using woke as a way to protect children from all these things. You know what I mean? There is a very loud political buzzword that is affecting legislation and elections in America right now, that's at the center of where this beef, the conversations where this beef ended up going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I've also never seen a battle go this many tracks so fast, of course, but the way every track that Kendrick put out was so different. feels like a project on its own. Like,
Mm.
no, listen, I call it the I hate Drake EP. I hate the way you walk, I hate the way you talk, I hate the way you dress, right? I call it the I hate Drake EP, and it is a diverse EP.
It is very diverse, and it's almost like someone asked them the question. Well, it's like a therapist sitting. Well, why do you not like Drake? Here's
Right.
here's exhibit one. Here's exhibit A. This. I'm going to sing it to you. I'm going to rap it to you as an East Coast lyricist. I'm going to rap it to you as a therapist in the form of storytelling. I'm going to get in my Eminem bag and really talk to you in a way that makes you feel like, does he feel sorry for me? How do you lecture me in the middle of a battle after you release probably what people argue, at least on the OVO side, is the strongest song that he had to offer in Family Matters. I remember do you remember this, Justin, when we had the conversation when Family Matters dropped? You know me, of course, as I was on Kendrick's side, the entire time, right? You remember when that Family Matters video dropped, I was like, he brought a visual into it. Oh man, this could change a lot. He crushed the Mad City van. Well, damn it, how badly did that age when not even 56 minutes later?
I think we were on the phone when Kendrick dropped. Hold on, Kendrick just dropped. Hold on, we gotta get off this. I think we were on the phone.
We were on the phone. You said, "Oh, I gotta listen to this. I'll get back to you." Yeah, the mood of our conversation definitely changed when that next one came out, because it really did feel like, it really felt like one of those moments that were like, this is bigger than anything that is happening here, and that's something else too I want to speak to you about too. Like, there's so many moments in here that does make it I mean, you say one of the greatest battles of all time. Definitely one of the most televised, one of the most, spoken about in all these different segments of it. I'm seeing it getting covered by Ari on MSNBC, and he's talking about like the layers of lyricism and how this is what Drake's position is versus a Kendrick who holds, the cultural currency up. But this did open up a lot of conversations into the value of culture, which is a crazy thing to say, especially as someone who's been in hip hop for more than 30 years plus, as a listener, as an artist myself. But it seems like, for whatever reason, no matter what age, that was a conversation I kept seeing rear its head. What are some of the elements that you think at large, because I know you always look deeper than just the rap politics in it, what do you think at large kind of prepared people to be so open to those conversations, even more so sometimes than just the bars themselves?
I don't know. Like, the thing about Kendrick's approach is that a lot of the things had already been levied at Drake, right? I mean, Shati was talking about his character and his distance from culture. One of the reasons why even some of the allegations, certified love boy, certified PDF file, right? Like, even that is conversation that's online. Drake mentioned that in Tailor Made Freestyle, one of my favorite tracks of battle, by the way. But he said, he's talking about that I like young girls. I heard on the Button podcast. It's got to be true, right? So a lot of this stuff was already out there.
Right.
I think that if you look again at what's happening in America, the culture conversation has been very loud for multiple cultures.
Sure.
Right. I mean, you start looking at things like, how Texas or certain states are shipping undocumented workers to different neighborhoods in other cities, right? There's a bunch of people who feel like, you're giving all these new people money who aren't even citizens, and you're not helping people here. What's happening with American culture? You start looking at America's efforts in Ukraine or America's efforts in Palestine and whatever, regardless of what side you're on, people are very upset about the amount of money that's being outlaid to other cultures.
Yeah.
Right. Very much so, America is an immigrant nation, but Black people aren't immigrants.
Right.
Indigenous people aren't immigrants. We're the only two populations that aren't immigrants. And so, and most of the entertainment comes from music. On the music side, definitely comes from us, right? Country came from us, jazz came from us, rock came from us, hip hop came from us. And so you have organizations like FBA or ADOS or, different organizations of foundational Black Americans here who have been having this conversation very loudly, very up front over the past half decade or so, maybe a decade or so, or as organizations.
Right.
That has also primed the ground level for people to start feeling more pride in Black Americans being considered a people with their own unique history and heritage, as opposed to some sad souls who don't know where they're from, like
Right.
everybody else always tells them, regardless of whether or not that's Caribbean or African people or Indian people or Chinese people or white people themselves. Like everyone looks at us like we have no clue who we are. So you
Right.
take all these elements and you have a culture conversation and what it means to be, American, or what it means, truthfully, what it means to be American
Right.
on every level within different racial groups or ethnic groups that's happening right here. I mean, look at the election. That dude Vivek's been running, and he ran for president on the Republican side. And the number of times that dude did interviews with his base, they love him. And then, and culture will say, I love you so much, but I can't vote for you because you're Indian.
Yeah.
You're not
Oh
of this culture.
man. Yeah.
But the culture conversation is way bigger than this battle. But this battle did so much to highlight it in a way that, in a more nuanced way than I think it was present to a lot of people, because a lot of people just see this as a race thing, or they see it that Drake's not Black enough because his mom's white, or that's not what it is. It's like,
Right.
it's more so that, the way Drake treats this culture, or his understanding of this culture, that he's profited off of so well.
So
He's
well.
added a lot. I think he's a talented
Sure.
artist, but when it comes down to the cultural connection to this art form that comes from this group of people, he's way out of his depth, and it's surprising. And like, all this time you go spend around Wayne, and you know what I mean, and you go say some of the stuff that he said at this battle. You
Yeah,
tell
that's
the
not
world
going.
racist.
When Wayne has been on record telling you keep it Canadian.
Right. You know what I mean? I mean, people say, like, Wayne will be outside. Wayne will say stuff like, my life matters, especially my bitches. Okay, that's where he is now. But Lil Wayne is a millennial rapper from the 90s. Go listen to his. Okay, he has a lot of songs that really touch on this. Now, you might not be the big hits most people remember, but I know what Saying Thursday is. I can tell you about Georgia Bush. You can talk about
man, and people try. This has been something that has been so surprising to me, and at the same time not so surprising, as I started to become probably the most in my career, at least in the public forum, more vocal about my own views, that I thought for the most part, like, if you're a participant in hip hop, there's certain things that I'm like, we're not even going to debate that, are we? Is that even really a conversation? But I'm seeing that the more, and I've noticed it, not to blame Drake, but I've noticed that so many people who have come to the defense, at least that have come into my presence online, who seem to be the fans of his, seem to have this point of view that, for instance, I shared this post here from Wise Intelligent, and I want to get your point of view on this. I don't know if you saw this, but he said, after the battle was said and done, he said, this battle affirms that what hip hop has been saying for 50 years. Neither record sales, popularity, spins, streams, awards, likes, or shares dictate who are the dopest MCs, let alone GOATs. Those commercial achievements are great, but they are not hip hop. Resonating with the deeper sentiment of Black people is a bigger determinant than any of the other corporate created BS. I don't think many people had an issue with the first points, but it's that last point that seemed to bring out a lot of vitriol from folks that are calling themselves hip hop heads. And I'm like, I don't know why do you think that makes so many people, especially in this climate right now, who seem to at least have some kind of appreciation for modern hip hop, why do you think that makes folks uneasy to even acknowledge the origins of this?
Hip hop's so big now. Like, well, how about this? I think hip hop is so known now. And most people think that rap and hip hop are synonymous. And so I think that rap is way bigger than hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, Devil Go Down to Georgia is one of my favorite rap songs. This is not hip hop. It's a fantastic country tune. He's rapping his ass off. It's not hip hop. It's rapping.
I never thought about that being the devil went down to Georgia. You're looking for a soul to steal. And you jumped on the hit your stick and said, now let me tell you something, because the devil's in you. And the devil, I've never, shout out to Mary Catherine Gallagher and Superstar. I'd never thought of that being a rap song. That is good. Damn.
That's all. That is not hip hop.
He was barring up.
He was, So, I think that also hip hop has also helped elevate so many different communities from different places. You know what I mean? I think you know, internationally, hip hop is about 20 years behind what's happening in America. And I say that in the context of uh, when most of the time when other countries hip hop scene starts, it mirrored. It was almost like they were trying to be like, rap like, dance like, whatever was happening in the States, right?
Right.
Then as time passed, it takes on its own identity in those places, right? So, that's how you get to, you go from, whatever was happening in London all the way to Central C, right? You go through grime to get to that point. You go through garage to get to that point. You go through Soul Solid Crew to get to that point, right? But now you get to a point where it's just more representative of them. And so once you start saying, yeah, that's cool and all, but it doesn't seem like you over here represent what Black Americans are talking about. That's not hip hop. It becomes offensive. It's easy for it to become offensive. And also, too, I think that particularly when it comes to anything that Black people do in America, by the way.
Yeah, let's not limit it.
That Black people do, after a while, it becomes, oh, but, we were there too. You wouldn't have done it without us, whether that is Fat Joe saying hip hop was 50-50 created by Black people, or that is like Jewish people saying you wouldn't have had the civil rights movement without them. It's like, it's just this thing where there is a level of credibility that being close to our community has always garnered in general when it comes to certain movements, when it comes to cool points, obviously, when it comes to inspiration for downtrodden oppressed people in other countries. Clearly America has more cameras than everyone else. That's not a Black innovation or anything, but that's how it's just spread, that there becomes a, mirroring our experience or comparing what people have done to our experience is ultimately a qualifier and also a level maker, I think, that comes out in other communities. So when we were like, no, that's not it, people get upset, man.
Here's my question though, because it seems like, since we're going to get on this conversation briefly about, kind of the rewriting of history, even to a certain degree, which you heard Kendrick kept saying, you're not a colleague, you're an effing colonizer. As we get into these conversations, the thing I don't understand, it seems like when a segment of anyone's culture gets overtaken and the story gets rewritten, they tend to rename it something, right? I never forget when I saw the headlines. I don't want to put it on the wrong brand, but let's say it was Gucci, that they were calling the newest thing in fashion are these hair scarves, and it's like, nigga, that's a do-rag. What are y'all doing right now? What are we? and literally, it's tied the same way, but they're like these scalp scarves are they're the wave of the future, and it's like, okay, why didn't y'all go? And I guess maybe that's where rap music to a certain degree is a little bit of rechanging that, but it's like you use so many of the elements that made rap music possible, which are the origins in hip hop, right? And it's like you wove them all together. So now when we talk about hip hop, you're so right in that there's not really a separation between the conversations of rap music and hip hop. And there's a lot of folks who are participants and think that they're in hip hop that don't realize you're talking about two different factions, two different entities entirely.
Completely, right? I mean, rap is a part of hip hop. It's not the totality of hip hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, so, but that distinction isn't something that's obviously even a lot of people, even a lot of Black people don't really think about it that deep, just generally speaking.
Right.
Have an understanding that, rap is hip hop, but we don't really consider how other people rap and it's not hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't necessarily think about it as the inverse because it's so innate to this generation and how we've grown up and how we've, all been a part of shaping this. Even people who aren't even in hip hop are part of shaping it, right? Because that represent, a culture or community take place within, hip hop itself. As fashion changes, if you're just a cool kid in the right neighborhood, you may not be into hip hop, but it might have an impact on that. You know what I'm saying? So, or slang like that, So a lot of times slang is just expressed through hip hop, but it's just some on the ground stuff that's just been happening in neighborhoods, and the guy with the microphone is the one that told the world about it.
Right.
So I think that's a big part, and I think it's offensive to people to feel like you know, they've contributed to it. Like I have one of my closest friends. This is an interesting story. I'm not gonna say her name, but one of my closest friends. She's amazing. She's so talented, and she's worked in hip hop. You know, she's from another country. She's has a appreciation, affinity for Black culture, just in general. You know, not even from like a profiting kind of thing. Like she gives way more than she takes, or she's received rather. And there was a company she wanted to work for, and and she talked to them, and they were like, "Oh man, you're awesome, but you know, at a company we only hire Black people at our company." And she got so upset.
Right.
She was like, "That's racist. That's so upset." I'm like, "Man, I'm so sorry, man. I'm sorry that you're going through that, man. I think you're talented enough to work anywhere, you know?" And she's like, "Yeah, but do you agree?" And I'm like, "Well, do I agree?"
It gets tricky there.
I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I support Black people organizing and supporting each other. Like I just fundamentally do, you know, and I don't feel like, she's like, "Yeah, but that's racist not to hire me," you know? And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess, but like, actually it's not." I don't know how deep you want to get into this conversation. The point is, some people just want to support their own community, and that happens across all kinds in every community. Like I know companies that just want to hire like people who just are closer to the culture. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily one thing or the other thing, but at the same time, you know, we don't have, every time Black people organize in some fashion, there's people from other places that come and tell us that, you know, it's a slippery slope if we do that, or we're going to stop. What happens when we stop supporting you?
Right.
You know, or if you vote for the team, they're going to put you back in shackles. We hear that all the time. You know what I mean? So, you know, and there's certain things just about Black people don't understand. Like, you know, Black people are inherently conservative. You know what I mean? We like Bibles, dolls, and guns.
Right.
Okay? When I say Bible,
because there's certain things, even to this day, you don't like in a Black household, you do not disrespect Jesus. You do not disrespect there's so many things that are at the core. I remember my grandma used to have it in here, like there ain't no louder voice in this house than them and Jesus or God. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's inherent in our DNA for a lot of us. Yeah.
And even when I say Bibles, I'm being like, we're faith based. Like, you know, we love Islam so much. We created 2 of our own versions of Islam. You know, we have the faith of Islam, and we got 5%ers. You know, like we are faith based people. We like money because we used to be a cash equivalent. You want to wonder why we talk about wealth and money in our music so much? Well, we are always on the take side of that. We generally don't have as much communal wealth as anybody else. And also, we used to be a cash equivalent. You could sell 5 of us and get a house.
Sheesh.
You know what I'm saying? And guns. You know, we've always been, our entire existence in this country has been generally at the barrel of a gun. We want protection, want land, leave us alone. You know, so they're the party that likes that stuff the most, we should be voting with, right? But we know, and they say it's because we're on the Democrat plantation. No, it's because the other team is Confederate, man. They are Confederate, man. They would love to see Black people they would love slavery back again, man. Like, it's just what it is. So we end up being in these conversations with these other communities that we don't necessarily align with in the same way. You know, the Liberal Party, the blue team, is really just a mashup of a bunch of different people who, you know, have different ideas. And the red team is like, we have these specific ideas. And if either you're in it or you're not, and one of those ideas is, I'm not going to vote for you if you're Indian, right? And so now we're over here in this other thing, and people think that, you know, because we're all looking for equality in some fashion, we're more aligned with them than we truly are. We're not immigrants. Like, we're very protective of this land. We don't like it when people drop off undocumented people in our neighborhood and tell them to come figure it out. We don't think that everybody in the hood is making it out of the hood. We understand that a lot of people in the hood are making it off the hood. There is a difference. And I think these conversations have been happening for a while, but it was pointed out very poignantly in a fantastic series of songs by Kendrick Lamar. He didn't go this deep, of course, but it sparks these kind of conversations.
I think what's really interesting too is seeing how a song like Not Like Us has like found its way into so many different cultures that may not necessarily hold pride in hip hop first, but just in essence, like, no, they're not like us. because this is our Mexican culture. They're not like us because this is our, like, I even saw it at a bar mitzvah. I was like, how do you feel about that there, Drake? Like that.
Right.
So I say that to say, I was having a conversation with an artist on Twitter when I was responding back to some of these folks who were trying to rewrite hip hop history. And as I was having a conversation, it dawned on me. I was like, this is not just a POV because I'm a black man. This is a POV of, I wouldn't want a successful American chain of sushi restaurants to have the right or the voice to rewrite Japanese and Chinese history or tradition of sushi, because that's not yours to rewrite. Same thing with, like, I remember seeing, with mariachi bands, it was a black mariachi musician, and he was talking about how, like, he had to really, really prove that he was worthy of being a participant in that culture because of how strongly they gatekeeped it. And I got to tell you, just from a personal standpoint, as an artist myself, growing up as a young artist in the early 2000s, gatekeeping to me in those years felt like, man, you're hating on me. You don't want to see me win, and you're not going to share knowledge with me, and you could help me, da-da-da-da. As I've gotten older, I realize now what happens when you don't gatekeep. It's the same thing that happens when you don't put a security system on your home. You get intruders. You get people that come in and make themselves comfortable with your belongings. And so I feel like in the same way, as I'm looking around at hip hop, there are people who have came inside the house. They've rearranged the furniture. They've spray painted the walls. They told you, hey, you're no longer head of the house. I took that picture down. Actually, Drake's head of the house now. And it's like, and it's not put up with much fight, or I shouldn't say as much fight as it may have been in the past. But now I'm understanding, like, one thing I keep saying on Twitter is, like, we need to not just gatekeep the culture, put it behind a paywall and evict the squatters. Because for a minute I was like, do we need to just change the name of hip hop? Do we need to go into something else and learn from our mistakes of opening up the doors, or do we go back and reclaim this thing? So
I'm in Tariq Nasheed. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed. I know he's a polarizing figure for a lot of people. I fuck with him. I fuck with the FBA with ADO. I fuck with any of those organizations that are about focusing on Black people being viewed as our own people, right? But he has Microphone Check, the hidden history of hip hop, that just came out. I'm actually in it. I'm honored to be in it.
Gotta check that out. Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Now, here's the thing. It is not some FBA hates everybody type thing. It's really just the founders of hip hop, from, DJ Hollywood, Sha Rock, Melly Mel, like the founders of hip hop, explaining, what the environment was like when hip hop was created and where they got the stuff from. Obviously they talk about Pig Meat Martin. They interview Cornbread. Cornbread is he's the guy who created modern graffiti in the hip hop context. It's a fascinating story. This dude was in a juvenile center, and he would just write cornbread on all the walls around this jail.
Right.
And the guards are like, why do you keep writing cornbread everywhere? He liked cornbread. His name wasn't really cornbread. He just liked cornbread.
Right.
So he gets out and he just starts writing cornbread all over Philadelphia. All over. And the Philadelphia Inquirer, these newspapers are writing stories about this. Who is cornbread?
Right.
Why is this guy writing cornbread all over the walls? This is so crazy. Right. And then so cornbread, he doesn't write for a while. And then people think there's a rumor that spreads that Cornbread's dead, that Cornbread has died, right? So what does Cornbread do? He goes to the Philadelphia Zoo and writes Cornbread lives on an elephant.
That's not funny, but that's hilarious.
Right. And so from those stories in Philly, it travels to New York.
Wow.
Cornbread's in the documentary talking about how me doing that had a psychological impact on the kids. Right. That's what the documentary really looks at. Right. It looks at just the origins of all these things. And so, I like the fact that people are starting to pay more attention to actually detailing and documenting the history of this while we can. We couldn't do this with rock and roll that fast, right? Because one, we didn't have the internet. Two, we didn't control that many media. Three, media as a whole wasn't consolidated. Four, a lot of our participation in rock and roll left because they took music programs out of schools.
Yeah, facts.
We didn't have the instruments to have stuff. We didn't have garages like that, and we're mostly inner city people at that point in time. So they took instruments out of school. We couldn't learn the instruments, so we We started beating on the table. All right, we ain't got no instruments. We're just gonna beat on the table, come up with something new, right? And so, you know, I like the fact that people are paying attention enough to fight for this. I'd rather not change it, but we're also really great at creating new stuff too, man. So we'll see. I think we'll be fine either way we go.
You know, I know that, you know, me being 39, I hear a lot of my peers have a lot of negative things to say about Gen Zers, and I see some of the crazy things that we see online by smaller segments of Gen Z. But that's one thing that I'm supremely encouraged by, and I think about my younger sister, in that before we go out to go eat somewhere, it's an extra step and it's a little bit annoying, but she wants to go check their website, their About Me, see who they voted for, see where they stand on certain issues. And when I saw that, I was like, I like to think the young me was a little bit aware. I like to think the young me was even to a certain degree socially conscious. This is a level of access that I didn't have access to, and a level of caring that I'm like, did I just not care as much? Or is it just how culture evolves? Is that how we evolve? You know, the 18-year-old today is not the same 18-year-old, you know, years ago. But when I saw that, it gave me so much hope, because I'm like, where there are minds like that care about those extra details, there's energy, I think, available to go search out these documentaries so that they can be in the know. And then also, too, so it plays into kind of like TikTok culture, and that now you have something to share. Did you guys know, like there's Justin, there's profiles on TikTok right now where it's like either like a white guy with a beard, if you see him, he's giving Black history facts, or it's like 16-year-old is like, bet you guys didn't know this about George Washington Carver. I'm like, do you know how hard my grandmother had to get me to do a book report on summer vacation about George Washington Carver? Now it's entertainment content. So it's like we're in the different world. And when I see that, I'm encouraged by seeing you talking about the documentary by Tariq, because I'm like, there's an audience, a very different audience amongst those who live through it that are very open to getting this information.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I like to think our generation had some sensibilities like that. I think we did probably on a local level. Like I grew up in South Carolina. I knew which barbecue place not to go to. I knew immediately which barbecue place was not the nicest to us. Right. You know what I mean? Collectively, Tommy Hilfiger. You know what I mean?
This is true.
When people thought Tommy Hilfiger didn't want Black people to wear his stuff, we stopped wearing his stuff. You know, whether that was true or not, that had an impact. Troop in the 80s.
True.
Troop, everyone thought Troop, the brand was made by the KKK. It wasn't, but you know.
That was enough.
that was
yeah, you know what I mean? The quickest way to kill a brand in hip hop, just make an acronym. Think about FILA. The quickest way to kill a hip hop brand is if you get an acronym that takes off enough. That's why, like, I don't want to stray too much, because I want you to be able to nail home this point. But that's why the whole, what does LVO stand for? Other vaginal option. I'm like, you guys don't understand how impactful that is for merchandise sales, and for the person that's looking in their closet like, do I want to deal with these Kendrick fans today? Nah, I'm gonna go ahead and just wear this other thing. I don't even want to wear the owl today. But that's the kind of thing that man, you could shift a whole point of view. Biggie did it with Kwame for a second in the polka dots, and it's like that's always been ingrained in the history of hip hop. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your point. I just want to make sure we got there for a second.
I mean, it's so funny. Like, I don't even think I really know what other vaginal option really means. Right? Like, it sounds funny. It's effective. Like, what's he really saying? How many vaginas are there? I don't know.
So many one-liners, and I don't know what he put in whatever Kendrick put in the ingredients of this. Help me, because my son, he can't, he's speech delayed, but you know what he does know? A minor. Son. I'm like, son. But there's so many. What is that? The Braves? There's so many that have just.
He went to all his inspirational guys in this one. That Eminem back he went into is so great. But yeah, I think there was a level of it, but everything's just, it's accentuated by the internet, right? We had the internet, but doesn't mean the business was on the internet.
Sure,
sure. Like nobody was telling, nobody was, you could just go Google who someone donated to. Like, you have to go to the library for a lot of things. I got to go to the library and find microfiche to see who this company donates there.
Can I make a Xerox copy of this so I can prove it to my friends? That's a crazy way.
Well, send me a fax. It'll arrive tomorrow.
That's a wild way. But we're in a time now where that's accessible. But because of that same accessibility, obviously there comes pros and cons. One thing that you and I, like I said, we were on two different sides about. I called you when that tailor-made freestyle dropped, and I was angry. I was like, do you see what's going on here? I said, oh, man, he's using a dead man's voice in his Tupac. What are you always got something bad to say about Tupac? Funny enough, when I was referencing a video I just recently did about that,
Great video, by the way. I
thank you, man. Thank you. Great. That means a lot to me because I listened to your points and I was like, as I'm doing research on this, trying to develop my own opinions, you're saying a lot of the things that I find myself slowly starting to conclude. But you had a point of view on that AI. I don't even know if you count that as part of like the songs that you go 1-to-1 against, but
I do.
You do?
Yo, man.
You had such a different point of view, man. I called you and you were like, Justin, you said, I don't know, man. You said, I don't know, man. I said it went downhill from there. But why was that a moment that you were like, you know what? I think that was a pretty brilliant chess move, I think I heard you say.
No, I mean, one, hip hop is technology, right? Mm-hmm. Music is technology in general, right? Whenever there's that's how music is. One, that's how there's an industry around music is because it's all technology, right? It's called the Grammys because of the gramophone, right? They were able to record artists that they put on the stage and now they can sell it everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so this is the freshest innovation just in life, really, and we're seeing it in music. Two, from a versus standpoint, people were very upset that he didn't rap like the initial criticism was he didn't rap like them. Mm-hmm. Well, one, we have no idea what Pac would have rapped like. His flow would have evolved just like everyone else's does. And Snoop raps like whoever he's on with anyway, pretty much. Like he got his own flow, but Snoop is malleable now. Snoop will rap like whoever, Right. So, but on the versus points, the way he was talking about it, like I could actually see Pac being like, yo, we need an undisputed West Coast. Like if Pac was a coach, if he was a cooker man, I think he would be like that. You know what I mean? Especially if he's talking to, and then the subtle jabs, like they said my spirit is alive and a nigga under 5'5", so it's gotta be you. Yeah, it was funny as fuck to me, right? And then Snoop comes on, he's a little more upset.
I have nephew.
And the bars connect with the House of Blues moment.
Right.
Which something like the research in it was like fresh to me. Two, all those guys are Dre family tree people. Yeah. It was thoughtful. Like Kendrick's a Dre family tree person. Tupac is, Snoop is. That's a real Dr. Dre beat. And I just like Dr. Dre beats at the time. That wasn't that was a real Dr. Dre beat.
That was wait. When did that information? I missed that. That's a real Dr. Dre beat.
A lot of research on this. That was a real Dr. Dre beat. And so like so that part was amazing to me.
I give him more points for the Dr. Dre beats if he had that just sitting in the wings.
It feels so good if you listen. It feels good. It doesn't. I know AI is good, mm-hmm. but like that shit really feels like it feels. I don't know if AI is. Who knows? Maybe next week it will be. I don't know. I don't think it was three weeks ago. I don't think AI would give you a Dr. Dre beat like that. But I know factually it's a Dr. Dre beat.
I'm sorry, Justin. All I saw was red when that song came on, and I heard. I couldn't hear. I was like, no, it's all AI. And right. And if you remember from the jump, when the first version of Push-Ups dropped, that sounded very monotonish compared to the actual official release.
Yeah, you've killed it with that breakdown, by the way.
Thank you, man. Why?
You destroyed that. I was like, oh man, I knew it had to be something. I knew it had to be something. I couldn't put I don't have your ear. I don't have your talent for making music. I'm not a super MC like you are, and a fantastic song. That breakdown right there was yes, perfect.
Man, I tell you what, it means a lot because I caught a whole lot of hell. Oh, I caught a whole lot of OVO in hell for doing that.
That's how you know it was great.
That's how you know it was. And then I had Justin. I had people that said, "Have you ever heard of a first draft?" Whoever you are, Curtis. I'm like, yeah, I've been rapping for the last 20 years. Maybe that. right? So but AI has been such. It's funny because a lot of the videos that I've been doing, and I'm sure this happens to you often, especially with the amount of research that you do, you start to realize when everybody's focused on this one main thing, you start seeing that there has been sort of like a fuse that is lit months and months in advance. And I was following really closely ever since there was the ghostwriter conversation, and Universal or UMG was like, we need to get this guy off of the streaming platforms. We did video by video breakdown to see, why are they so aggressive about it? Is it aggression because they feel like he's really stealing from their artists, or do they want to get ahead of this thing? And the more I did stories on it, the more I was like, the moment that they got the distributors, the DSPs, to pull this stuff down, and then it showed news on Music Business Worldwide that they had a conversation with Google, it got really quiet with Universal and AI. There were some updates in terms of like, these are the laws we're fighting for, but it got hush hush. We never got to hear about what happened. And then before you know it, tailor-made, and I'm gonna say the first version of push-ups too, because man, you know how angry I was. I was like, we think we're stupid. They were like, no, bro, it was the unmastered version. We got the CDQ version in 2024. We're using these blog.
I mean, but that's also a thing I like about AI though, right? I like the idea that like, okay, let me get these lyrics down real quick, drop them in AI, get my voice on it, see how it feels, and then I'll go in and touch it. You know what I mean? That saves studio time. That just saves time like delivering something that you might not 100% be sure about. I think that was a great example of how this can be a tool for different artists, or like, writing, like, you want to write a song, you don't know where to go with your rhyme, you drop half of it in, you let AI go the other place, see what ideas come out, and then maybe you arc it from there. A lot of people will do, I wrote rhymes for 2 years, not to be a rapper, not to be an artist by any means, but I took an art history course when I lived in Amsterdam. And the art history professor said that if you really like art history, you should take a painting class, because that way it'll get you closer to why Rembrandt is so great, why the way he does perspective is, world renowned, or why the way Vermeer does motion, creates motion in painting, is how difficult it is. You'll increase your appreciation. And so when I was in New York, I would write rhymes on the subway on my way to work every day just to get closer to this thing I really love. Dope. I gotta have a terrible tag. My tag is awful. I've got a helicopter that's way off beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was on radio, I used to DJ my mix on the radio, terribly awful. But I've touched these.
But you've done it though. That's
how amazing these people are. You know what I mean? So I wrote rhymes for 2 years. And sometimes, like, I would just get stuck on a rhyme and didn't know where to go. So I would just go back to something else I wrote and just try to take it someplace else. You never know, right? And so that's one of the things this battle showed me, was how AI can be a tool too. Like, it doesn't have to be, someone just put some shit in the computer and now they're selling it as the end product.
Right.
BBL Drizzy, those lyrics were written. It's just, he wanted to sound like a whole different feel that he couldn't do without having to pay a whole room full of people to create. Right. And I think that's the most dangerous part about AI. That is the Thanos quality to Drake in this battle. He is promoting a tool that could rid half the music industry of its revenue opportunities. There's nothing Lucy ingrained wants, or Hollywood wants, than never have to pay a performer again, or never have to pay a background actor again. AI is going to be very disruptive in that fashion, but I think there are opportunities for it to be a tool.
How do you feel in terms of how it affects your field though, right? Because I mean, you have, and I guess, what would you consider your field today? You've done so much, you do so much, you continue to do so much. I feel like I don't want to insult whatever it is that you kind of like say is your current field right now, because I'm like, it only shows a fraction of your ability and the things that you're able to do. But in what ways have you seen it affect, I guess, the field that is the most important to you today?
It affects all fields. Like every tech, like Breaker, we have a strong AI component to the company out of necessity and also efficiency. In journalism, we're seeing such consolidation in the media space, in the journalism space. A lot of these people are laying off a lot of writers. Do you really need a person to write a news story? Like, it's a real question. If you're writing something that doesn't have opinion in it, do you need a person? I'm not necessarily I'm against people not having job opportunities.
Sure.
But I'm also pro efficiency in everything, every aspect of life. I'm someone who also believes that whenever there's technological disruption, there's also new opportunities that are birthed through that. And I'm also super pro UBI, universal basic income, man. We got all this stuff that's taken away so many jobs. Our tax dollars should be going to giving people money to pay their rent so the real estate people can still make money at bare minimum. That was the whole problem with the Great Recession.
There's less
They
cars
bailed
on
out
the
the bank.
road.
They should have bailed out the people who couldn't pay their loans.
Come
They
on.
would have given it to their house and the banks would have made money.
Yeah.
We do too much top down and not bottom up. And I think that, AI is a great reason for us to really start, questioning and legislating or voting for people who understand that what it means to be in the economy has evolved, and now we don't need 40 hours a week, and maybe we don't need to be working as much, and people should get universal basic income.
Can the people get back their Sundays? Can the people get back their Sundays? Can we just, can we really get an off day?
Add a Friday. Can Friday be?
Can Friday be Fridays again? Make Friday great again. No.
But one of the things I'm most proud of this year is I had a lot of resolutions this year, and evolving how I was doing content was one of them. Picking up a hobby. Chess is my hobby. I love the chess culture. Chess culture is so cool.
I got to get back into it.
Yeah, and volunteering. So I've started volunteering every Friday at the LA Mission, and they just made me an LA Mission ambassador.
Man, congratulations!
So I'm very proud of that. But that's how I use my Fridays. And partly because things are a lot more efficient now because even Premiere Pro has AI things to help you
to chop down the editing. Like, oh my gosh, know how much?
That saves a lot of money.
What and that's where I'm at with it, is that especially as a DIYer, like DIY, I pride myself on the ability to do a lot of things and be a self-starter. That don't mean I want to do all of this shit. There's some times that I'm like, I would love nothing more than to not sit here word by word and make sure the animation is perfect to my liking, because I also can be a perfectionist for irrational reasons. And so I'm sitting in front of it and I'm like, you know what? If there's AI that's like, can I take that trivial task away from you that will not affect your artistic ability? Yeah, please take that away, because what I'm looking at it now is, I kind of piggyback off of something that Childish Gambino said. He said, man, when you think about an artist like Elvis, who, folks, you either consider him one of the biggest colonizers, you consider him one of the most legendary pop acts, whatever you want to call him, for what it is, he said, I think that Elvis would have been a much better actor if he had to spend less time recording music in the way that it was recorded at that time. Because at the time, it was a lot more tedious. The steps weren't as easy as click and press record and go. You got, you're doing, I'm saying, you're doing the real, you're doing the tape to tape, like you're doing all these steps that now the average creative who wants to dip into different fields, they now have more time to evolve in those things that they're, really put on this earth to do, as well as evolve in different other things. I look at a Childish Gambino or Donald Glover, and I'm like, he can exist now because, one, he has a team, obviously, but also because he's able to say, you know what, in this season, I want to work on Atlanta or ATL. In this season, I want to work on a summer album. And I don't care about the promotion. You guys, you get it, you get it. You don't. Or I want to go work on, a TV show. And I look at AI as yes, it's very problematic at times. It's very scary at times, especially for my job. But it's also like, there's a lot of shit that I really would like to do and not do. Do like spend more time with my family. Do like spend more time with my art. And there are tools that are making it easier. However, it ain't seasoned salt. It ain't Laura's. You can't just add it to everything. I was watching this video, and not to be disrespectful to Canva, but geez Louise, I don't know if you saw that video that popped up that's been going viral, and maybe that was the point. But I looked at that and I couldn't help. It's this video where it's from a conference they recently had, and I'm a Canva user. I use it every damn day of my life. But damn it, this Hamilton meets hip hop meets no hip hop meets AI chat GPT. Could you make me some lyrics performance that they had?
I didn't see that. I missed it.
Oh, I'm gonna send that to you. It is it is the highest levels of cringetivity. I shared it here on my on my platforms, and folks are like, see, this is why you can't add AI to everything like Spices, because there is a necessity to have somebody that is a voice of authority that can tell you, like, I don't think that's it. I think we need to.
Well, I think a lot of this stuff will still continue to live in the community space, right? There's definitely going to be AI hosts. I like I like the gorillas.
Mm-hmm.
Like they tell me they're real people. I believe I've seen a picture of actual real people. I have no idea. They're cartoons.
Right.
MF Doom would send out Doom bots. Like that's there. I used to like Jim and the Holograms when I was a kid, or the Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some AI that is close enough to human sensibilities that people find entertaining in different kind of ways. But we're so far into a community-driven environment. You're going to be fine, for example, because you provide inspiration, you provide information, you provide art, you provide escapism, and you find earnestness, honestness, and genuineness to your community,
Mm.
right? And your community grows because, from my point of view, your community grows because of those things fundamentally. They can see the effort that you put in every day. They can be a part of your growth, so therefore they're a part of your community. People are gonna be fine, as long as they
Right.
continue to do those things.
Appreciate
That
that.
AI can't replace that. Now, if you're talking about what viral moment might go on, or how many big companies actually want to hire real people,
Right.
that's always fluctuates. Look at blogs. Blogs destroyed the newspaper essentially, and now, now it's AI blogs. Instagram basically took how many photography jobs did Instagram take? Oh
Man.
my gosh, so
Yeah. How quickly
this is like
forget, because we it's easy to be mad at the new thing or the newest thing, but how quickly we forget how fun it was to like tap into the idea that, hey, with these filters, these basically baked in presets that a photographer would spend the time on Lightroom or spend the time in Photoshop to do, I can do this with just a swipe of the picture. Man, all of a sudden, I have an urge to take a picture of a sunset.
right, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, there is an there's an economic theory that once things become cheaper, the marketplace actually gets bigger, right? So if you can make a song for
Mm.
nothing, right, or you can, like, you can go to Udio right now, type in the prompt, and it'll kick out J. Cole, right? That's what it did to me. We talked about that, right? And once you bring more people into the marketplace, you know, there are now more people that have an opportunity to become people that people want to spend money on.
Mm.
Right. So if you've got 3 million people in a marketplace, right, and people are willing to spend, $10 on average, and that circulates around 3 million people in the marketplace. Or you get 300 million people in the marketplace, and people are willing to spend $1. You've actually grown in revenue, despite the fact that you have, less people involved. So AI actually allows people to make songs cheaper, right? Like, me and my friend actually, we started an AI app. It didn't go anywhere, but in the idea around it was when we got to a point where we had about 200,000 users, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still up now. It's called Rapbot. Anybody wants to go download it, you can go play with it. It's not nearly as advanced as Udio. We didn't get the investment to keep up with everybody else, but you can go to Rapbot. You can type in, what you can go in, you can put a prompt in for a song. It'll let you know, ask you if you want to write the song yourself or if you want to kick out some lyrics, right? And then the next thing it'll say, okay, do you want to rap this? We turned off the voice thing because we didn't have licensing for it. Either way, the whole point is our users were like 12-year-old kids who were making songs about how they love their mom. Our users were like
Mm.
widows who missed their husband who passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to find a way to get out their pain inside. It was like people who had nothing to do with music, who had no aspirations to have a career in this space, but were able to get closer to, in most cases, paying tribute to someone that they loved in a unique way that they could, to share their real life experiences with, right? And so You can't do that's not an easy thing for anybody. You got GarageBand right now. That shit ain't easy
It's
to
not,
do.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the first time I've heard
So
that perspective. I think that perspective is really interesting because I remember Les Brown, one of my favorite speakers, he would say, you know, when you think about people who have passed away and you think about all of he said the graveyard is a gold mine full of ideas that never got launched. And when you think about all these folks who are like, yeah, I have this 9 to 5 that I do, but I've always had aspirations to at least suck at something, right? Or be just not even be good. Like I just want it as a hobby because that's what we all as human beings is what we need as hobbies to some degree.
for me,
Why not? What? But I'm saying, like, why not have the space to do it? Like I know I'm not the best at getting puzzles, but that don't stop me and my wife from getting these 2,000 piece puzzles and sitting down for the next 4 weekends. Hoping that my son don't touch one of the pieces. Like that don't stop us from doing that and getting the like. But I think those things are what one builds up character, and they also make you better at whatever is your profession. I think I find myself getting into a hobby that is physical, like trying to fix things around the house. And I'm not Mr. Handyman, but I've become that over the years. Fixing things, messing them up, doing the leveling, trying to mount a TV, and I'm like, damn it, that's not how you do it. Oh, that's what that's for. Doing all of that makes me come back to my art with a level of patience and a level of comfort in knowing, like, damn it, I'm finally good at something. So, I do think there exists an opportunity for, some people need that. That'd be the one thing to keep them from going crazy is to have something like that as an outlet to go to. And so when I think about those folks, I feel a little less. Let me ask you this, and I want to definitely get before we wrap everything up, I definitely want to get some more viewpoints about what you think the implications of the battle, the current climate, and where hip hop is going. But this has been one topic personally that for the last week or so, and I think it has a lot to do with the success that I saw during the back and forth. Everything's related to the damn battle, I promise you. But I'm getting a lot of people out of nowhere who don't understand a world where someone like myself is a full-time artist, but also a content creator, not just for my music, which has its own content bucket, but for somebody who does a lot of the research. And I don't want to quite call it journalism because I have so much respect for what gentlemen like you do, but I'm trying to do this the right way, the same way I would want somebody who comes into music. And for some reason, the audience just looks at you and say, oh, I guess your music career must be over. Or I guess it didn't work out. I guess it didn't pan out. And I like to look.
I like your Schoolboy Q response.
Yeah, because that was interesting. Shout out to Schoolboy. I understand his POV in that he felt like, he's discouraged by seeing so many rappers turn into content creators. But I do think there's a difference. And like I said, I want to get your POV on this. I think there's a difference between someone who has to get into content creation and someone who finds a passion for content creation and uses that as a medium to kind of create leverage and opportunities. Like I've known you for all damn near, a good chunk of my career. It's not because of me making music that we're talking today. It's because of the fact that I have created a platform and a space where this makes so much sense. But can you kind of talk to what you're seeing? Because I'm sure there's a lot of artists you've interviewed through the years who have kind of made their way into this space.
It's so funny. I did a video. What year did I make this video? I must have made this video like 2017. And it was called Rappers Will Steal Your Job.
Oh, damn it.
And it was looking at the long history of rappers taking other creatives' jobs, right? It was looking at, like you used to be able to just be an actor. And then all of a sudden, Ja Rule's in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And all of a sudden, now it's harder for like someone who's just an actor, who's not a rapper who just sold 2 million records to get an acting gig. And now they want Ludacris, you know what I mean? To be able to just be a DJ. But then Solange, Beyonce's sister, wants to share her iPad in the night.
I'm a couture DJ now. Yeah.
Ashley Gray. Right? You should be able to just be a journalist. And now you got, every rapper wants to turn on the microphone and be a podcaster, right?
Yeah.
I look at that as something that's always consistent. I think that generally speaking, people gravitate towards, at least opportunities are always there for people who have audience. And this is the fuck with you era. The more people who fuck with you, the more points you got on the board,
right,
the more opportunities are going to keep opening up, right? Especially if you're consistent. But for me, fundamentally, I have the notion that everybody needs to do news on themselves. Right. I actually think that any rapper who is not doing their own content in some capacity is either in a fortunate situation like Schoolboy Q, where he has an organization around him who employs people to take care of that shit for him,
Sure.
or they're doing themselves a tremendous disservice. You should do news on yourself every day. You can drop news faster than you could drop quality music.
Right.
People want to engage with you all the ways that they can. That is what this environment is. So if you're sitting around, I'm a rapper, man. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to turn on my live real quick and talk to nobody. No, I don't want to share no thoughts on anything else outside of my music. Your music's not going to go as far, dog. It's just not.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me. Somebody gonna have to tell I had to throw that one there. Woo! You said a whole lot, and I think the room is about to get a little bit quiet. Could you repeat that one more time and explain what do you mean by that?
You want to engage with your audience in all the ways that they want to engage, right? But I don't look at it as content creation or podcasting. I look at it as news on yourself. Right? One, people know that Curtis King gonna go live. Okay, when Curtis King goes live, we're gonna talk about things that are at the top of mind of Curtis King. Oh, we're also going to talk about the process of Curtis King putting together this project. Oh, I'm looking to hear cool anecdotes about what's happening in Curtis King's life and is doing puzzles with his wife on Saturday night, right? Like that brings people closer to you and they want to support your music more. They'll support your music past whether or not you personally.
No, I get it.
People will support your releases past whether or not it was good. They'll support your releases past whether or not it's your best work. Right. One of my favorite anecdotes around this is a story Jay-Z and Dame Dash used to tell. This was, oh gosh, when did they do this? This was to be like the early 2000s, right? And they were talking about how they were making their move into the vodka space, right? Because they had Armadale Vodka, I think, was their first vodka. And what they knew at that point in time was, especially since they were a very independent-minded organization, they knew they had a strict hold on 200,000 people. Now this is the 90s, right? That 200,000 is basically a fraction of what they generally sold on Jay-Z albums. But they were able to take what they sold in albums, market next to ticket sales, market next to merch sales, market next to their newsletter that they had at that time. So they knew exactly that they had a strict hold on 200,000 people, right? Regardless of what they did, where their music was coming out, they knew that 200,000 people rock with them, right? So they were able to take that and leverage that into the vodka space. So they're like, okay, we got 200,000 people that we know all the demographics around. We know that, we are club-going people. They like to go out, they like to drink, they like to party, they like to have a good time, right? So they were able to take that and leverage that into getting into the spirit space, the liquor space. And they were very early on that conversation because they weren't just promoting another brand. They were like with the curation of it. And their understanding of their audience is what made that successful and the selling standpoint of it. But what made it successful to get the deal, right? And so if you're just dropping music and you're leaving it up to streaming services as the idea of your analytics, well, come on, man. We've seen all these people cancel tours because they stream crazy, but nobody wants to see them live. Or we see people cancel tours because they might have a lot of followers, but they don't have a lot of people that are engaged, embedded into their community and the ideas and concepts that they're putting out. When you do news on yourself, when you do content, when you do podcasts, when you find different ways to engage your audience, I describe that as doing news on yourself. And anyone who doesn't have an organization around them doing that, and this goes for non-famous people too. Right. Anyone who doesn't have an organization around them filling in those gaps, anyone who doesn't have a Rick Ross out there screaming BBL Drizzy every day while you're over here making these songs, right? You're yourself a disservice because there's so many different places where conversations happen, and ultimately you want people to be engaged and buy into what you really do care about. And if you go away for 5 years and come back and drop something, and go away for 5 years and drop something, come back and drop something, you're missing an opportunity to expand your audience, that crucial population of people that you need to have a hold on in order for the things you care about to go the farthest.
Man, and thank you for saying that, because I think one of the things that kind of made me hesitate to coming into this space was, how would this affect my relationships with people that I've met through the traditional industry, even though I'm independent? How would it affect my opportunities, by speaking so openly about things that I was opinionated by. And then secondly, you know, one of my core rules before I got on the internet was I never want to gossip about other people. And I felt like it got really too uncomfortable for me the closer I got to certain subjects where I was like, do I really want to say something about this? Because now we got to really have personal conversations about who the hell are you to talk to me? And wait, why are you here? And people start to hold your career. Somebody this morning called me a failure. I was like, golly, just because I said Drake is a colonizer, now we got to hope. But that comes with the territory. I'll say this, though. Man, it's been
say that about people with podcasts. I don't mean to cut you off real fast. Like, Game was just on Joe Budden's podcast explaining why he dissed Rick Ross. He had no reason. I don't think he wants to dig Rick Ross.
Did he say I had no reason?
And my next video is going to be about why I think Game is really trying to diss Kendrick. But either way, we'll see. But he was on there, had no real reason to diss Rick Ross. And, he said, I'm still in the game. I haven't started my podcast yet, to Joe Budden. Well, Joe Budden, he's probably bigger now than he was with the music. That's failing. That is failing fast in a fantastic fashion. That shit should be applauded.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not like, so whoever's saying that shit, obviously is just people online. Very upset. He's very upset that OVO stands for other vaginal option. But
somebody said, by the way, that
it was an error of that with Schoolboy.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that.
Schoolboy Q kind of.
I was going to say, somebody in the comments said, what he meant by that was the booty hole, but we don't have to even go into that conversation about that's the OVO. If that's what it indeed is, I
think if the booty hole is a vagina to you, it's in that conversation.
You got a lot of things.
I don't know that culture. I don't know that culture.
They're not like us. They're not like us.
No.
They're not like us.
Is that slang? I don't know if that's slang or not.
No matter what it is, it make me think twice before throwing that T-shirt on this morning to go to school. Man, so the thing that I like that's going on right now is the layers of conversations that are now being had. Even like the arguments that are happening. Usually I'm one person that wants to stray away from them, but I'm recognizing how natural and how important that is towards some kind of progress. Lay it all on the line. Let me know what you really feel. And no matter how messed up or jacked up that is, we can get somewhere if at least we're being honest to start off with. Then we can kind of see the things that we disagree with. But one thing that I'm seeing is like there's conversations about, the direction of American literacy for kids. There's conversations about the necessity for more authenticity in the music, because don't get it twisted. Once Kendrick is done right here, he gonna go right back to wherever he was and enjoying his peace, doing his push-ups to oldies. He don't want to hang out. I've met him a few times, but this is not the person that want to hang out in the internet and like, yeah, let's go have a parade in like LA. No. He might get one video. If you get the Not Like Us video, good gosh, it's gonna be a hot summer. But I say that to say, I wonder from your point of view, and I want to ask you this: what do you think, if anything? Because I've been saying I think a renaissance is on the way. Or it's already underway. But what do you think are going to be sort of the long-term effects of this battle, of the kind of conversations that are being had in a very mainstream light, and really just in general, I guess the future of where hip-hop is going next?
I mean, I get a lot of that from your covers, to be honest. The way you talk about conversations that happen with streaming companies, right? The way you talk about, the performing rights evolution and payouts and things like that. I think what this battle has shown in that regard is, one, there have been reports that these labels aren't interested in TikTokers anymore. By just one viral song isn't always enough anymore. Right. So they're not even signing these guys at the same velocity that they had been previously, because most of them, they're essentially signing people that caught lightning in a bottle and realized that the lightning didn't come from the bottle.
Go figure.
It didn't come from the bottle. They just happened to grab it. It's not a bottle that makes lightning. You want to get a bottle that makes lightning. Right?
So you mean getting a viral star because they're going viral on TikTok charts is not a reason to put them on a Rolling Loud stage? That what you're telling me?
I don't know if it's a reason to sign them for Rolling Loud. They might get on it, But
gosh.
But the industry is looking at that kind of stuff. One thing I thought was really fantastic about this battle, and maybe you can argue, there's an argument that because hip hop is so great at creating friction, that the friction around it really made a big difference. But like, Euphoria is like a 6-minute song, man. Family Marriage is like 6-7 minutes.
Yeah.
Man. Like these. Oh,
that goes against every playlist or suggestion whenever you send in, and I'm not one that has sent music in because I've always had this nasty taste in my mouth when it comes to just the whole distribution of things and allowing folks that are not really of said culture to be the tastemakers of it, and to be like, I can't imagine a young Quincy Jones in his time listening to a guy that was promoted into a spot because of, maybe some level of nepotism, maybe some kind of relationship, and not necessarily because of the work that they've done. Like, I would be so comfortable in any position that you're in to be someone that is going to hold up the culture always. But when I see some of the suggestions, I'm like, what do you mean take out the bridge for that artist? What do you mean 3 minutes is too long? Are we scratching off dopamine, or are we trying to really make sure that the best music is on this playlist? Or are you looking at stats?
We're gaming the system so we can justify there being a system. Oh. I mean, one thing I learned when I was at Empire was that every year the record labels do a deal with the streaming platforms, basically rounding down the amount of money they receive. So every year, at least for a period of years, I'm not quite sure right now, but it was like a good 6-year period, 7-year period. I'm pretty sure they probably still do it now, to be honest. But where they would negotiate taking less money from streaming, right? And, well, that's almost nonsensical. Why would label make a deal to make less money from retail, right? Well, what does it say about the business of selling music if nobody is making money off this thing? If the biggest retailer can't make money selling this product, do you even need an industry? Right? How many jobs are really disrupted then? It's like, this, to me, that TikTok idea is, well, not idea, but what's happening with not even just TikTok, but signing people who are just viral online, who aren't necessarily in this for the long haul. There's a shift there. One thing that record labels the majors haven't been doing is they haven't been scooping up a lot of these independent artists who are touring really well. They're basically leaving the independent space wide open, And so that to me makes me feel like they're more focused on ways that they can capture revenue more so than ways that they can capture artists at a macro level. I'm not talking about every label. I'm not talking about every genre, every division or whatever, but I think they see more opportunity with AI, more opportunity in the gaming space, more opportunity in the AR stuff, more opportunity with sync licensing, especially if you could take AI products and put them in movies. Like things like that are of more focus because they're cheaper to make and they'll increase the overall market share and share price for these organizations. So there's so many independent artists that are out there doing shows. A lot of these independent artists out there doing shows are complaining that it's hard for them to get venues because podcasters are doing live shows in these venues now, right? So these things are evolving in that space. But I do think that the future truly is direct to consumer. Like that Bandcamp stuff you've been talking about, that really is the best way to rock, because again, at least you get a chance to capture your own audience. You get people who are going to support you for a number of different reasons. You don't have to worry about whatever fluctuations are happening in streaming. But I do think that streaming may go in a different direction. There's Rashida Tlaib and some other people in Congress. They have a bill in Congress that'll force streaming services to pay 1 cent per stream as opposed to 0.0003. So
starting somewhere. We're starting somewhere. We got to get there.
From an exponential standpoint, that is significant. Okay, that's like,
but
that's like
no, it is. Times. And I'm not trying to belittle it because I did a video about it, and I'm like, I understand that these things happen in steps. My concern, especially after watching that the Spotify TV series that they had on Netflix, that kind of digs into more about Daniel Yik and the ways of how he sees and views this art form. It made me look at this and say, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you say, all right, I got to pay these suckers a cent, bet. Subscriptions are $92 for the basic package. And you know what? Man. And they're already starting to do some of this stuff where I'm looking at it where I'm like, very, very, very quietly, I don't know if you noticed this, They put your ability to read lyrics behind a paywall.
Word.
And, and I had an artist that I talked to, shout out to my guy Eloquent. He was like, I wonder if we get any extra payments for the amount of time somebody clicks show lyrics on a paid account. And these are the things that I'm looking at that I'm like, they're so minute that how many of those can you do? How many of those kind of decisions can you make on a regular basis before you don't even know it until, you know, the MLC is suing or putting a lawsuit up against Spotify saying that it's trying to cut songwriters out of $150 million because of their new bundling package that bundles audiobooks and things together. I would have never even thought to look into that as a way that would affect songwriters because they're creating these bundles out of things that used to be part of, you know, their basic package. But when I saw that, I'm like, oh, so that's the kind of folks we're dealing with. Instead of trying to figure out ways that are more sustainable for the people that create the foundation of your website, aka the artists and the musicians, you create things like thresholds where you need 1,000 streams annually in order to even be in the conversation of getting paid, which is not a very foreign thing to other platforms, even including this one with YouTube. But the issue is that but the issue is that you do this after you've already capitalized on the amount of traffic these individuals have sent to your website and continue to send to your website, even if it is a very minute number, like under 1,000 streams a year. It's just like it's heading in a direction that when I jumped off, they crucified me for it, but I'm like, I don't feel so crazy now with the way things are continuing to go.
I mean, ultimately, everyone has to figure out what the best thing is for them.
Sure.
You know, the thing I like about the YouTube Patreon situation is like, and even YouTube now is taking a lot of Patreon stuff and just building it into YouTube because they don't want you to leave it all. But it's like, you know, your super subscribers get different perks, right? You know, like you could put some songs on streaming and you could do most of your stuff on Bandcamp. You know, I in that sense, I still think it's an empowering era for creatives, you know, even with all the disruption that's happening, even though the internet isn't the wild, wild west anymore. It's way less wild. And if it was the wild, wild west before, we are in Hawaii.
Right.
Okay? It's surrounded by paywalls and barriers. You can't find shit. You know, you got to get a VPN and pretend like you're from somewhere else. You know what I mean? So,
very different world, for sure.
I do think that's empowering, but all of this is because the labels are so late to new technology, generally speaking, right? I think they're probably a little early on AI now than they were with Napster. All they had to do was buy Napster and just develop this stuff in '98 that everybody be fine.
No,
they would make commercials with Metallica.
Eagles was involved
because they were getting free.
Justin, when I look back at these videos now, I'm like, oh, excuse my language, you niggas are scared. Y'all scary as hell. I'm looking at this, I'm like, I understand the stakes that were there, and I get that it's a world that we have been so used to over the last 20 plus years. But when I look back at it, I'm like, so many people were pushing the panic button, and rightfully so, that you're seeing your revenue from CDs and physical getting sliced in half right before your eyes, and that's what you're relying upon. I get it. All these other factors that we can't see as well. But now fast forward, and I'm like, there are companies, for instance, like the very program that I use to make beats, ImageLine FL Studio. They have survived through eras where people have pirated at large their product, and they've thrived off of releasing new updates, even though they give their customers lifelong, like once you purchase, you get lifelong updates for free. Pirating is a part of sort of in a weird way, part of kind of the marketing rollout for some of these companies, right? It's an opportunity for them to get even like a little bit of testing to see how people gravitate towards the free download and how they feel about these things. And so now, as that's even evolved, it's crazy how many corporations allow the pirators to really dictate their business model and the culture of what they're doing. Now what I'm looking at, I'm like, if I do my job right in talking to my audience and making sure that I listen to their needs and we have really engaged conversations, my friends don't steal from me. Now, will some people steal from? Oh, for sure. But will enough of them support what I'm doing for me to make a living at this, for me to continue to thrive at this? In my experience, that's what it's been. And so I don't really concern myself with those who are going to steal, going to find a way to steal.
Exactly. You know, like I don't pay for any. I only pay for YouTube Premium.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I pay for YouTube. My Netflix is my dad's. My Amazon's my dad's. My HBO Max is my friend Sarah. My Disney Plus is my friend's friend somebody.
You putting
My
cases on?
Hulu
Why you
is
putting
my
cases on
friend.
everybody, Justin? Why you putting cases on everybody? Y'all gonna be watching Netflix on Pelican Bay when I'm done with you. Cases on everybody.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's their fault. They're the ones that raised these prices, so it's back to cable prices.
Yeah.
If it was just like it'd be fine. I shouldn't be spending that money on entertainment in the first place.
Two Papa said allegedly. Hold on. Let me put this one here. Allegedly.
Allegedly. I don't need to be spending $120 on stuff to watch.
This is facts.
You know,
this is facts.
You know, like I'll do YouTube Premium. My YouTube TV is my uncle's. You know,
yeah.
I only care about basketball season and football season. You know, I'm not watching baseball. You crazy? Baseball's so dumb. Baseball is a sport where the defense controls the ball. Who wants to watch that? It's 1-on-9, and the defense has to be like, okay, everybody ready, let's go. No, I don't need to watch that. So I only need to a couple times a year.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's certain times where I'm like, dog, why do I have to scour through 17 different apps to see who has money talks, only to land back on Tubi where I have to watch the commercial because I'm not buying the premium Tubi. Tubi is good for a good little laugh. You know, I like a few low budget movies. That's who I am. I like to get the creativity, the creative juices flowing when I see some of this craziness. But I'm not finna pay the premium. So I sat there and watched that. You know, it's funny. That was the only access I had to Don Cheadle's playing Miles Davis. I didn't get a chance to see that when I was in theaters.
That's amazing. I was at the premiere for that. Love that movie.
Man, it gave me a new perspective on Miles. Like, you know, just seeing it, because obviously I was too young to experience it when I was younger with Miles Davis, but being able to like see it through that lens where, you know, it definitely teetered between like fantasy and some stories and whatnot. But when I sat back and kind of understood why they went that direction, I was like, it makes the Miles Davis brand and the Miles Davis, the man, makes so much more sense as I listen to these interviews now. I saw an interview where they said something along the lines of, do you feel old, Miles Davis? He said, where? I said, hey, those are words after my heart right there. Justin, you got a second for a few questions? I want to respect your time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So some of the folks in here, shout out to everybody that's in this chat. I really appreciate you jumping in the conversation. I see y'all having a full-fledged conversations about this AI. It seems to be pissing people off. But to Papa, who identified the other OVO, said, for Justin, do you feel labels are still necessary? What can a label do for you that you can't do or grow yourself?
Efficiency, relationships. It is very hard to get on television. I don't know if you have a desire for your grandma to see you somewhere, you know, that's impressive. Labels do a great job of that. Great labels handle all the data entry that goes into this stuff, which is it's a lot more tedious than it might seem from the outside. You don't just upload to Spotify. You got to get your UPC code, your IRC code, and all this stuff. Labels also do a great job of highlighting different opportunities and marketing ideas. You know, like it might not feel like it, but the project managers really help get these projects across the line. You know, so now the question is that you can't do yourself. You can do all this yourself. It doesn't mean it's to be done, but also labels are a bank. So if you want to have, money to make your album, labels are good for that. But really, we are in a space that if you want to choose your own adventure, you have all of the opportunities you can to do so. Like I take an artist like Rhapsody, for example, right? I love what I'm going to say. Please don't take this as a shot. It's not a shot at all. I think Rhapsody is one of the top 5 women rappers of all time. Right. I think her album Eve is arguably the best album a woman has ever made in rap. I love Rhapsody to death. Right. Rhapsody just dropped a new album. Please Don't Cry. It's definitely worth a listen. Definitely check it out. Right. And Rhapsody was on all the major platforms. Right. She was on Button Podcast. She was on Breakfast Club, whatever. Right. She was all over the place. Rhapsody gets under a million Spotify streams a month right now. Like she's under a million.
Mm-hmm.
Grammy nominated with under a million streams. Like, she's on Rock Nation and she has under a million streams. So the product but yet she seems louder and bigger than less than a million streams a month. Like her numbers
Definitely. I didn't even know that till today when you said that. Yeah.
Well, that's all relationships. That's her being who she is. That is her having support from her label. That's her and Ninth putting together fantastic projects and being well connected. Because if it was anything more than that, the numbers would be higher. So her fan base is actually below what you would expect from a Grammy-nominated person you see on TV with a major rollout every time they show up. So a lot of that is the power of the label. The power of where she is. She was in a fantastic group called Cooley High. That's where I first heard.
Same here. She came out to Riverside to the Vibe, and we saw her up and close. We were like, no disrespect to anybody else in Cooley High, but
right.
she was a star back then. And I think they kind of recognized it because all the dudes was like, who's this? Like she's dope as hell. Yeah.
Or 3D Nazi. 3D Nazi to me is. I wish she would put out more music more often, man. Like 3D Nazi is one of the flyest MCs, period, man. Yeah. Whoever. She is incredible. She's out of New Orleans, man. And like, if you haven't heard of 3D Nazi, punch yourself in the face. Go look her up on YouTube. That chick is bad.
I want to say we might be friends on Instagram. Yeah.
She always had a really independent spirit. But she, I think she was with Timbaland at some point in time. I can't remember. But at some point, every artist has to take a fuck you deal. Like there's no artist that you see on TV or doing big numbers that didn't have a terrible contract at first, right? And so you kind of have to take a fuck you deal to get to somewhere. She didn't want to do that, and now the world doesn't get to see her talent in the same way. So if you want to be a superstar, you're probably better off going through the label system than trying to figure out how to do that on your own, because a lot of times these platforms are going to prioritize people they have relationships with over people they don't. And it's very difficult, especially if you're not in New York, Atlanta, LA, it's very difficult to build relationships with people to the point that you'll get support on a mass scale from this industry of cool and not also be financially intertwined at some point with either people on the media side or on the label side. The labels are good for that.
Someone asked us earlier, and I don't know why. Said, "Don't you got to delete him? He good. My moderators, shout out my moderators. They're on it right now. But said, let them breathe. Let Domino's breathe. Said that my moderators are snipers. I kid you not. But Domino's Effects. I think he asked this question earlier too. I know you and I are very much. We've barely even scratched the surface, even offline, about both of our fandom of Andre 3000, 3 Stacks. Domino's Effects asks, Andre 3K or Lupe Fiasco lyrically, who's better?
Had to do this. My man Domino's, man. Shout out to Domino's. He's one of the analysts in my audience. I love him, man. He does a really, I don't know if he realizes this now. I don't know if I ever told him this. Man. He does a good job of making me think.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely at a point where I just think about once certain artists get to certain tiers, I kind of just stop comparing them because it's preference at that point, right? And so, but if I was going to say lyrically between Andre and Lupe, gosh. And he always does it with my favorite artists too.
He knows what he's doing. That's a very specific question. I've never heard those two names.
Andre or Cannabis. You're right. He doesn't do Andre or Cannabis or something like. He's not doing he doesn't do Kendrick or Styles P. Yeah, I love them both, but I know how easy it is for me to get over there. Because my top artists are also very different. Like Lupe and Kendrick are probably the closest in my top 5 stylistically, but everyone else is very different. I got to give it to Lupe. I think Lupe is just a different kind of technician at it. You know what I mean? Like Lupe has proven himself to be able to make the most dense songs ever, and also some of the songs that have the simplest complexity in there. I'm not saying it's out. I'm not saying it's like Andre's not lyrical. Please don't take that. These are literally my 2 favorite artists.
There's a reason why he asked those 2 names.
Right.
He's not giving the polar opposite. He's giving it's a great question in itself.
Yeah, and then Lupe has he has more songs, verses out there than Andre does. And so just the range of stuff that Lupe's been able to do from a lyrical standpoint,
Yeah.
uh, I'd have to give it to Lupe, but maybe like this much, like that
Lupe
much,
Lupe has
But
lyrics that he'll deliver them in a way where you get a certain satisfaction as a listener in general, but then you read them and you're like, do you think he meant to make that a quadruple entendre? Yeah, of course he did, because look what came up after that. Like I was reading through, I forget, it might have been I forget what song it was, but I was listening to Rockefeller Y'all, which is a more recent song by Lupe, and I'm just listening to it and I'm like, he'll go on these what feel like tangents, and you go back to it and it's like, oh, he's just in there laughing to himself. Because he knows damn well 90% of these folks who are not lyricists or folks who study the craft are not going to pick it up, but it sounds so good because of the way he delivers it that people are like, he's saying something, shit. I like that. He's saying something.
right,
Yeah.
right. But then he can go the other way, right? Like, because one of the things I liked about this Kendrick Drake beef is that before Kendrick responded, there was a real debate about how lyrical Kendrick really is, or if he had bars in a bar sense, right? Like Kendrick's always, he's got a ton of quotables. I don't know if I would say he had like punches like he did until this battle, to be honest. And, you know, Lupe looks at lyricism as punches and entendres, right? But then there are people who think that, you know, having great lyrics in a songwriting sense is the same thing. Right. So like I wouldn't describe Pocket's lyrical, but people say Pocket's super lyrical. Well, the difference is the definition that they're leaning into. Right. If you look at the definition of lyrical in the dictionary right now, it's going to say being melodic with words or words in a song. It's going to say something like that. So most people think about it in that context, which means, are they saying people who are saying impactful things regardless of how they're delivered in a song, right? But then in a rap standpoint or in a hip hop standpoint or in a cypher standpoint, rather, right? Or definitely in a battle rap standpoint, punches and entendres is where the lyrical lines differ, right? And so Lupe spends, you know, he looks at it as punches and entendres, right? And so that dude Lupe is on another level with the punches and entendres, man, you know? But then at the same time, look at Andre 3000. Like, he's definitely punches entendres and also the other things, and Lupe is as well. But I don't think Andre spends as much time specifically on punches and entendres in the catalog that we've been blessed with.
Right. You know? And also too, there's a factor that we can't ignore in that because one came before the other, there's an opportunity to take the baton and evolve or hyper focus on certain elements and say, this is the difference between me and maybe one of my favorite MCs is my ability to quadruple down on this. Like, I always look at Young Thug, and this is no disrespect, but I look at Young Thug as an extension of the Lil Wayne lean era. Like, Lil Wayne had a whole different sound, and he was figuring out different pockets. He was getting to different instrumentals where he's rapping and kind of auto-tuning Music Soul Child lyrics over an Outkast sample. I wouldn't care if you was a prostitute and I'm like, what world is this? Now when I look at a Young Thug, I'm like, it makes so much sense why it's so much more of a sharpened and carved out version of that era of Wayne, because you had the opportunity to. So when I look at Lupe, it's the same thing. Because for me, my appeal with Three Stacks has always been his ability. First of all, the Southern charm. I got a lot of Southern family from Lafayette, Louisiana, and so when I listen to him, it feels like family reunions and home. Even myself, I have a bit of a Southern drawl, and it's funny because I've been working with Iman Omari. He's trying to work that out of my system. He's like, he told me, he said, I need less Kurt Franklin and more Curtis King. He said, I'm gonna work on it. Kurt Franklin is crazy. I was like, do you know what that feels like to hear that 20 years into your? He said, man, that's why people say you sound like a pastor. You sound old school. But it's good because I'm looking at it and I'm like,
you be dropping hymns and
not on purpose. Not on purpose, but then when somebody tells you, man, Curtis, you remind me of the golden era of hip hop. I'm like, thank you. And then I figured out what they really meant, and I was like, oh, okay. So I say that to say, that I think there's opportunity. I don't want to be the old nigga in the club. I don't want to be the guy that's like, he wore them white pants just for the night. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy in the club, man. So I'm grateful that I got people around me that's not afraid to tell the truth to me. And I'm grateful that I'm open to evolving, because I think I understand why a lot of my peers I'm 39 this year. I'm turning 40 in January next year. I understand why a lot of my peers get to this age. You know what I'm saying? You don't get up as fast. You start getting aches you ain't never had before. You feel me? Like you got grown man issues that you dealing with. The idea of changing this thing that you've been doing a certain way doesn't sound that appealing. But one thing I'm always reminded of, and shout out to my former manager in Salas, he always used to tell me, he said, never be too married to the titles that you have developed over time. He's like, before you're a rapper, before you're a producer, you're a creative. And I said, it's something you're going to always do. Even if you never have the ability to rap again, you're a creative. And so I think that we're in a very unique space as artists today, in that we're given the opportunity to evolve in ways that somebody at 39 in 1999 maybe wasn't given the same grace, maybe didn't have an opportunity to leverage it through a platform, or the internet wasn't even the same internet. And so I do think we're going to open the door for evolutions we haven't seen before, like our guy Three Stacks playing the flute and selling out venue, selling out the Blue Note.
Right. I mean, like, I think that's one of the coolest things I've seen in rap, man. I like it. I mean, the dude made Hey Ya and a flute album.
That's nuts. Like, that's a nuts catalog.
I don't know what it is, dog. That dude dropped one of the hardest lines, like just as a human line, like in a line that transcends whatever's happening on earth, right? When he said, if what they say is nothing is forever, what makes love the exception?
In the middle of that pop ass song, you dropped that. What?
Yeah, I mean, that challenge, all I heard was love is forever. And all I heard, up until that song, all I ever heard was nothing is forever. And then only thing I also heard was, when you fall in love forever. You love people forever, right? I have never bridged that gap my entire life. I never heard no one bridge that gap. I've heard no one question either one, and those two things are polar opposites. That dichotomy, the juxtaposition of those two phrases, right? I mean, Andre is amazing at that, and that is Lupe's thing. That the basis of Lupe, we see him is the juxtaposition, right? You can see why they're both like my top two favorite artists of all time. There's elements, things that I just personally value more than anything else in who they are musically as they present themselves to us, right? That is definitely there in that case. So it's like, which one is better? It's like, oh man, like, this dude's basically taking a lot of the things I love about, this other artist and doing it all the time, right? Like the Andre, Lupe, Kendrick line that's my top three, Andre, Lupe, and Kendrick, right?
Yeah,
I don't care what nonsense.
I'm low key like it's sometimes it's hard to give that kind of praise like to a Kendrick, because I've had the opportunity to work with them on a few occasions, and because like you're so close, you want to feel like am I just being blinded by my West Coast bias? Like you want to make sure that it stands up when you have these conversations with folks, because they're going to ask you like, well, how does that stack up against him? How does it stack up against this? But after this display, I was like, I don't have another doubt in my mind that that's one of my top fives of all time, because he embodies so many of the things that I came to be a fan of Three Stacks, right? His ability to weave harmonies and melodies in a way that felt very much like church, that felt very much like Sly and the Family Stone, that felt like Bootsy Collins and the music I grew up on. And then for him to be the same one that says, sit down, be humble, to create a damn album. And like, so when I see all these things in one, that's what I end up making my favorite artists, are the ones who have the ability to do all these things, but they don't feel like, oh God, he's in his rock era. Oh God, he's in his this era. Right. It just feels like an extension of the same brand.
Right. Yeah, that's the same thing with me, right? I mean, I made a GOAT piece, a video about arguing that Kendrick Lamar might be the GOAT in 2016.
Yeah.
When did I do that? That's like 8 years ago. I mean, because look at the other GOATs, right? We so much of the GOAT conversation is based off of classic albums. Homeboy he already had Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly. Damn, like That is, or Section 80, Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City to Pimp a Butterfly is a GOAT level catalog.
Yeah.
Most people never even get close to those three. And I'm not even sure. Damn is my favorite. I think Damn's the best one. You know what I mean?
Like, someone asked that question earlier. They were saying, why do you think that's a perfect album? And I was like, that's like answering a question for you, unless you said that in your content. They say, why do you think Damn is a perfect album? Perfect rap album.
Yeah. Right. It's I mean, you know, I think it's a classic, to be honest. I would say it's I mean, I don't know. I guess classic is more groupthink on that one, like where it stands in culture, rather. You know, it is a beautifully written life to death story. You know, the internal struggle of different emotions that plays forwards and backwards, that has, you know, very, you know, has every element of all the sounds that I like, all the way down to like Bomb Squad sounding Dr. Dre production with U2 to fucking, you know, DJ hosting it in an artistic fashion to like some vicious, scathing. Like, that's one of my favorite diss tracks of that, or I guess subliminals in the whole Kendrick Drake thing. His verse on Element, that when he's rapping like Juvenile, talking about next time you hit the receipts, huh? You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's perfect.
Things that got rehashed as we started to. It was amazing to finally go from watching these YouTube videos where folks are like, "Here's the 30-minute compilation of all the subliminals back and forth," and you're like, "Was that really about it?" And then when you see it rehashed in this battle, you're like, "Yeah, that was really about it. Yeah. That was directly about that situation."
Is my middle name as soon as you jump off that plane.
I saw a tweet earlier today. That one thing, I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I saw a tweet earlier today that said, the moment that Kendrick said, "Hey Top, who they think they playing with?" He said, "I had the feeling that they had Kendrick Lamar fucked up." Like, that was the moment where it was like, I don't know how this is gonna end for him.
I wish people would stop saying that acts like an activist. I'm like, where? I've never seen Kendrick act like an activist at any point in time. Just because you make music that comes from the Black community, that's not activism. I'm sorry. Yeah. Just because you make the Pimp a Butterfly, that is not there is a difference between activism and being conscious of your community.
And it's crazy that they criticize that, yet demand it of the folks who have told you very blatantly, I'm not here for all of these social issues, but they asked them on the red carpet. Like when I think they asked Young Thug at one point, they were asking him about, like, what do you think about these things happening in Ferguson? I'm not sure exactly what the situation was that they asked him about. And he was just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to stay fly, get this money, and, you know, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you want those rappers who told you what I'm here to do very blatantly to do the things that you see Kendrick do, but then when he does them, you still criticize it. I know you can't make everybody happy. I know it's not the same person, but it's just like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. No pun intended.
That's our fault. That's the audience's fault, right? Because we tend to think that if people have a social consciousness to them, that's activism. Right? This idea of like this woke stuff, like that's a product of this woke macro environment, where if you speak out against something or you advocate for something, all of a sudden that's woke, and now woke is bad because, you know, white people have taken that word and flipped it. Not even just white people, but the leaders of the conservative conversation in America have flipped that word, right? Just like they do all the words. They flip drip. Ronald Reagan's a drip king to them. It's like, what? I can't use drip now? I like drip.
Not now.
Not Ronald Reagan's a drip king. Okay. I'm not fighting for everything. I'll fight for hip hop. I'm not fighting for drip.
You know what? You can have that one. That's all you. That's all you.
Yeah, you can have drip, man. Go ahead. It's fine. These words don't think about that. You know what I mean? But like, you know, when you have something to say about stuff, like J. Cole to me would be someone who, you know, acts like an activist more than Kendrick does. I mean,
if you wanted to have that conversation, right? Because he was out there. I don't think he was out there for the photo ops, but photos were taken.
I don't think so either, but he literally was out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, he's going to turn around and criticize No Name.
Yeah.
Criticize people. He's going to criticize No Name. He's going to show up, make a song, about a woman in Chicago with a book club
Mm-hmm.
who actually is an activist.
Mm-hmm.
I would describe her as an activist. I think she would too, you know, and she's actually doing work on the ground for that cause. So J. Cole's gonna go to the rallies and mention stuff in his songs, and then criticize the woman doing the work because he doesn't like the way it makes him feel or men. Like,
make
what?
It make sense. Make it make
That's
sense.
acting like an activist,
right? If you want, but they don't want to have that conversation because they're a lot. I understand a lot of Cole fans right now have been very, very quiet at this point in time or these last few weeks because of his decision to. I didn't ask you about that, but I guess it's one of the last thing we could end on. But
what? They got Grippy. They should hold on to Grippy. Okay, they got their guy Cole back. They can hold on to Grippy. Great time for Cole.
Wait. Speaking of which, did you see? Did it ever get explained if that was AI? Please tell me that was AI. The official Dreamville streaming platform released a song that sounded like a new Kendrick Lamar disc, and it sounded like an AI Lil Wayne verse that started off the song. Nobody ever heard that. You didn't hear that?
Play it right now. Play it right now. Let's react.
Okay, let me see if I can find that. Let me see.
I didn't hear that. When this happened?
This happened, I want to say, before the weekend started. So last week it happened. But
I just J. Cole all the way out once I realized he wasn't real.
Let me see. It's J. Cole, Kendrick, this. I think it's let me just put Dreamville. This literally just dropped. Does anybody know if this thing was claimed or not? Because I kid you not, I saw it was, and I think a lot of these platforms are getting hacked by people. But this dropped on streaming. Where is it at? Dreamville. No, it's literally called Kendrick. There we go. It's Kendrick with spaces.
Right. I'd imagine it has to be.
That has to be AI.
It could be a leak or a lie. Like maybe he had another one and decided not to put it. I can't imagine they would put that out. If they did, what are you doing, Cole? It's too late. You
can't do that.
What's happening with y'all?
Look, this thing is called Dreamville Kendrick, and then someone uploaded it. Someone uploaded it, re-uploaded, and said J. Cole and Lil Wayne dropped this song last night and deleted it this morning. But I got it. Haven't seen anyone else with this file yet.
I don't believe it already. The preamble's too crazy. No, I don't believe it.
You don't want to believe
one says that. Look, that's way too much metadata already.
Look, I'm about to put this on the screen so you can see what I'm seeing. Hold on, I got to put this on the screen so you can see what I'm seeing, so that you know that I'm not out here capping. I saw this on the Apple Music. Like, even though I don't use streaming, I still listen to music on streaming. Right, I don't have my music on there, but I still listened, and I saw a new Dreamville, and it's called Kendrick. I said, maybe this is not over with. Maybe Cole said, you know what? Now that that's settled, I want to get back to that business I did with 7 Minute Drill. So look at the artwork. This is exactly how it looked on Apple Music. This is a screenshot from Apple Music from the Dreamville account. All right, peep it out.
Yeah, I get to the bag. Niggas really wish they had the same life that I have. Nothing but cash, money showers in the morning. You can find me in the bath, do nothing but laugh. And all the haters that look at them, 91 time is sad. The shit is too bad. I came from rags to riches. You niggas still stuck on the rags. 91 features, they don't look straight in their eyes real deep and tell them my past. I don't need nothing from niggas. Try to keep a finger on the trigger. Yeah, we'll bang, we don't care, we'll with you. Gotta be on the block, same cheese, take a picture. Niggas acting like they wanted to smoke, tell the show where smoke comes through to your house, come get you. Niggas say I really low-key with how I be moving. I seen you one of my headers, reminiscing about the body I caught in my dream. Then they took me straight to the prison. That was a sign I was told to ignore. They told me stay with the mission. Yeah, it's hard to change it up after you find out how much money you get. My family told me I'm walking with shoes on the wrong feet. Then I gotta be tripping. You heard about the nigga that cost me a little while back. They said that nigga was missing. You heard about the nigga that cost me a little while back. They said that nigga was missing.
I'm done with complaining. I'm tired of me being the reason you niggas is losing the battle you pick. Guess I'm the one that you blaming. I thought it was cool. I see you handle shit different like we back in school. I'm a different teacher, just get in my class and make sure you bring down my rules. They make sure you wipe down my shoes. I got a swimming pool full of your blood, dive in it. I guess that he think that I'm soft. Being around me is intimidation, I'm pissing them off. Give you this work, then make you take off. Nigga, I'm one of a kind. I never thought it'd be you when I heard it. You know I just had to take all of my time. I had to hop on the truck with a nigga I know gon' kill it, so everything fine. I thought that you had a nigga back until I found out you was out here trying to break niggas' spines. Yeah, you wanna diss on a nigga who ain't show you no love. Come on, man, you gotta be live. I should've never responded. This shit wasting my time. Aim at your face, this shit gon' pop like a pimple. I put a hole right in your cheek like a double. These niggas think they can say what they want to me. I guarantee you this shit ain't just simple. This nigga moody, he all in his feelings. I think the litigion just got on dismissal. Shots fired, I think that this nigga is tired of trying to dodge all of my missiles. I can do this blindfold. Why do you think that I'm lying for? We are just two different goals. Everything that you want, I can do this shit times fold. This nigga lost. I ask myself every day, Kendrick, where did your mind go? This nigga tripping. Damn, how long I've been rapping? Yo, where did the time go? Cold.
I smell AI. I smell AI. That's my first initial reaction. What's your first initial reaction when you hear that? Because it was on the official Dream Deal.
I need the Curtis King breakdown. I need the Curtis King breakdown.
I hate that I didn't download
I'll tell you,
it.
it sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds good. It sounds good. I'll say that. I mean, if it's on the Dreamville page, I don't know, man. I don't like the preamble. I don't like how it's presented.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Hey, hello. Oh, look at this. Look at this Lil Wayne and J. Cole song that I found that no one else seems to have it. Would you like to take a listen?
And
I mean, I don't know.
And if that's the case,
good, but like,
if that's the case, who left the computer open to allow somebody to go in and upload? Whose laptop is this off of? If somebody went and put an AI, I don't know how much to trust that this is some out of control fan, and how much of this is allegedly UMG insider saying, hey, we don't know how it happened either. But that AI does sound pretty damn amazing if you ask me. This right here pushes the narrative and this is my opinion only. These views expressed are only Curtis King's. I look at that and I say, who else has access to the official Dreamville? Is Dreamville through? Is that a UMG related label?
Yeah, I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see.
Somebody,
all these guys are in it.
All
the majors are in there.
I hate it, man. I hate it because this becomes the issue. Like that was my thing with people. Yeah. That's the one thing I didn't like about, amongst a lot of things I didn't like, was, man, the real world implications of, hey, I'm just a guy that gets excited about seeing this back and forth, but because Kendrick didn't respond back fast enough, I'm going to make my own response. And now you're saying things that have real life implications, maybe not for the Kendrick and Drake thing, but for local rap beef. I think about artists that, that people know they don't get along, and then a song drops and people don't know the difference between AI or not. That could have real life consequences if this thing doesn't get controlled, because you can say whatever the hell you want to say about somebody.
I mean, that's already here, dog. It's too late. What are we going to do? Oh, man, it's crazy, man. I hate all these opioids, man. There's real life consequences to this medicine for these painkillers, man. We need to do something about it.
Am I that guy?
Oh, my God, man. It's so wild, man. All this crack rock is around here, man. We got to do something about it.
Don't tell me I'm that guy. Don't tell me I'm that guy. No. The thing we got to do, Justin, we got to make sure that we stop them from distributing these CDs. We got to make sure cassettes stay alive. And I'm not that guy now.
Everyone has an opportunity to determine how they want to react to it.
Disgusting.
I think it's better to spend more time figuring out, one, how it works, the positive ways that it could benefit your life, my life, whoever's life, how to make sure that you don't get jacked, and what to do if you get jacked for your voice, your likeness, or whatever, or how to join one of these platforms that are paying people out every time someone uses your whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's all kinds of options, because it's not going away.
It's not
and
going away.
Legislation takes forever. We didn't get a streaming act until like 2017 or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, so it takes a long time. They're talking about the new music legislation now is trying to pay artists 1 cent. Okay.
Regardless of where the economy is going, they're like, all right, we came up with it. Let's move it to 1 cent.
1 cent, right? What are we gonna do? You know, we are definitely, it's here. Yeah, and I like tailor-made freestyle. I don't care.
See.
It goes good in the gym too. It sounds great.
I'm glad we have such a strong brotherhood, because you know those right there are friendship ending words. Tailor-made freestyle. No, but I love you for being unbiased, and I love the fact that you're able to see it, because you were helping me. Because you know I went off that week. That week of content, people were like, you must be getting paid by TDE. I was like, nah, that's not what's going on here. I see an opportunity to speak to something that I'm like, oh, this is not obvious to you? I'm the controversial one. Okay. Right. Well, let me make sure I document this along the way. But, man, I do appreciate you for being such an inspiration to me, man, and just saying it like it is and really saying it in a way that we need to hear it so that we can continue to evolve as a culture, as listeners. I'm glad that you're making sure that you're prioritizing these high IQ conversations around hip hop, because there was a point in time I remember I had peers of mine that were like, nobody wants to hear about those viewpoints of hip hop. They only want to hear about the gossip. They only want to hear about the low hanging fruit. And it's like, nah, if I exist, I know there's a ton of other people that exist that want the same things. But it's always folks like you, I think, that show others like myself what is actually possible. And so, man, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So we appreciate you, man. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, Justin Hunte, the company man. Let the folks know, because your information is in the description below, but let the folks know where they can connect with you and some things that they should look out for that have your stamp on it.
Word up, man. At the company man on YouTube, at the company man on everything, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you can find me there. I got another video dropping. Like I said, I'm about to talk about why I think game is in an interesting place, which actually falls in a good line, because we have a new Eminem album that's coming this Friday, this weekend. So I'll be talking about that. I've got Lupe coming out. Lupe's coming out this week, or next month rather. And so I've got some Lupe content I've been wanting to do for a long, long time. I've still got some, and I think there's like the thing. This battle really has inspired me in a lot of ways, and because I think there are so many angles to talk about it, so I'm still going to talk about this, right? And one of which is that weird angle with the Mark Hotel and Ebony Prince 2K24 and the journalist Christopher Alvarez.
I'm still following him for whatever reason, because I still feel like something eventually is going to drop, but it feels so coded at times that I'm like, huh?
I'm gonna close that loop on that this week.
Please.
I'm not gonna cover it anymore, but I think people really need to understand that. And the thing that's weird about that is that it's so tied to 616 in LA, which isn't on streaming. So that's like a song that's under listened to, underheard, and under discussed.
Right.
Part of what I mean why this is such an interesting battle. Like it literally brings in, it literally brings in the hotel staff and police in a hotel that's with all kinds of allegations around it, and parties that should have nothing to do with the general consciousness of two of our favorite rap stars. So I'm gonna close the loop on that too. More anything else, man, I'm just really, really excited to finally be on here, and thankful for you and your conversation and all your compliments. It's been inspiring. I've had a rough couple of years, and I'm more energized and motivated than I've been, since the Obama administration.
Come on, man.
That is a big reason for that is you, man. I really am inspired by all the things you built and the relationship you have with your audience, man, and how you've taken charge of taking control and how you're going to put music out and stuff like that, man. You're covering all the bases, and I just really appreciate you.
That's huge. That's huge compliments, man. Once again, Justin Hunte, the company man. I can't go this whole way without putting one of these
freaky ass nigga here, 69 God.
I just had to throw that out there.
For your life.
I added them to here, and I could not have this thing pass with us wearing these shirts and not shout out to Nan Lib one more time.
Shout out to Nan Lib. She texted me while we were on. I think she's watching right now. Hey, check your Twitter. She tweeted us.
Okay, I'm gonna definitely check it. When I'm in here, man, I'm tapped in. I genuinely appreciate you, and I look forward to, man, more of these conversations as you're helping me to get an introduction on what this could look like, because like I said, I don't play with the title of journalism. I don't play with that lightly, the same way I wouldn't somebody come in here and be like, yeah, I'm a lyricist too. And it's like,
like Drake.
Hey man, what you think of this? What you think of this, bro? What you thinking? You got any kind of input? Look. All they go look. The OVOers are very angry with me. Oh, they call me everything. Oh, they so mean. Why you OVOers so mean? You don't like nothing to do with some hip hop and blackness.
Other vaginal options.
Man,
be the booty hole. I guess I didn't think about it.
I hope not, man. This is really funny. This is some insanity, because man, even the double. I'm just now catching. Hey, run for your life. The illusion of Bill Cosby. I'm also catching.
Oh my gosh, the fucking
stabbed away. R. Kelly. What are we doing?
Oh my gosh. Don't be doing that, man.
I did, like, every time I think, like, all right, maybe the song might be starting to run its course, there's something new that happens. Like, they had a video, it was a viral video of Drake supposed to be on vacation, like in South Africa, and they're playing like a like an Afrobeat version of it. So he said, I can't even get away from it. No matter where I go on vacation, it's gonna be versions of this song. But yeah, when I heard that, I was like, even
Did you get the wop 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 one?
Huh?
The wop. Did you get what WAP is? WOP?
No. What about that?
Legal term. It's like, hold on a second.
Oh my God. Wop. Yeah.
Let's see, what is it? A want of prosecution. It means want of prosecution. I don't know.
When has lyrics over a... This is no disrespect to anybody who's ever rapped on a mustard beat, but when has lyrics on a mustard beat, on a hit song, had this many quadruple entendres and meanings, and then also has a history lesson in the fourth verse?
I love it. It's so good.
Oh, what a time. Man.
It's a great thing, man.
Well,
we really happy that everything turned out the way that it did.
And as you all...
That was all happening.
I'm about to say, we can't end without hearing you say that. It's all happening, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I genuinely appreciate every single one of y'all. Make sure you go into the information in the description to get some more information. If you're not already subscribed to Justin's channel, you need to make sure that you go ahead and get subscribed. Amazing information and content that you're definitely going to want to tap into. I will leave this video up. Greatly appreciate everybody who's giving your feedback, and I shall talk to you soon. Have a good one, DIYers.
DIY.